Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, PSS Circle of Care is on a mission to enhance the accessibility of our caregiver services for those who need them the most in the Bronx community. An outreach care consultant for PSS Circle of Care tells us more about how they help our caregivers. Then, with the new season approaching, we take a look back at this interview with the founder of Botánica Skincare Studio to learn more about how to start a skincare routine. After that, an entrepreneur and motivational speaker who has gone from being homeless to becoming a self-made millionaire has recently released a new book and has written a stage play. We speak later on with the author and screenplay writer to learn more about these inspiring stories. And finally, the New York Community Trust has recently received a total of $7.7 million in grants that will be distributed among 39 nonprofit organizations. The Deputy Vice President for Grants at the New York Community Trust speaks more about how these grants will help the people of the community. So stay tuned to all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, March 5th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. Founded in 1962, Presbyterian Senior Services, now known as PSS, aim to serve seniors in the local community. Today, PSS is an innovative, multi-service nonprofit with a mission to strengthen the capacity of older New Yorkers, their families, and communities to thrive. Outreach care consultant for PSS Circle of Care, Emily Ceballos, joins me to discuss the organization and their efforts. Emily, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, yeah, you can.
Oh, no, of course, you can go.
So I wanted to learn a little bit more about PSS and their overall mission.
Yeah, so the overall mission here at PSS is to really strengthen the capacity of our older New Yorkers and communities to really thrive, as you were talking about before. We are a multi-service agency. We work on delivering the essential tools, programs, and resources that these community really needs. We operate 10 older adult centers, one residential building, which would be the Alberta Austin House. We offer New York Connects in Brooklyn. We offer case management in the Bronx. And then finally, we get to PSS Circle of Care, which is for kinship caregivers, which could be grandparents raising grandchildren. And then we offer for caregivers that are caring for someone who is experiencing memory loss, chronically ill, or just frail in general. So that can be mainly, we are mainly based in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Staten Island.
Now I want to talk a little bit more about Circle of Care, just because I know I said PSS Circle of Care,
Yeah.
but that is just one part of the organization's
Yes,
overall
exactly.
effort. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So yeah, PSS Circle of Care is a program that PSS offers. We are funded by the city and state government to provide these free services to unpaid caregivers. So that once again is for somebody who's chronically ill, frail, or experiencing memory loss. And we, that's what we prioritize in Circle of Care.
Now, as I mentioned, the organization began in 1962.
Yes.
How has the organization evolved since then?
Yes, so since then, it started off as volunteers that would kind of just service the church community, the members of their church community, but now it has since then expanded. We want to reach obviously more of those older communities and their families, and we really just want to offer them with the services that we offer, any additional programming. So that's how we've evolved since then and just expanding our outreach.
Now, why is it crucial to provide these services to seniors in the community? But I will even go further and say it's not just for seniors, but it's also for their community and the people that take care of them.
Right, because it always like affects, you know, their environment and, you know, their day-to-day life. So definitely. And I would say it's definitely crucial because, of isolation and loneliness. We really want to allow our services to permit them to stay healthy, engaged, and connected to their communities without feeling isolated. So that's always a priority for us, definitely.
Now, what I also think is so important, and I think for a lot of younger New Yorkers, we tend to overlook this because we're not at that stage of life yet. But one of the organization's values expands on the mission to recognize older adults as a vital part of New York City. Can you just first tell us, what are some of the challenges older New Yorkers face, just in visibility or maybe some services that they need?
I think, what I was touching on before is like perfect to say. It's just like the isolation and loneliness. I think that New Yorkers tend to, these older New Yorkers, as they get older, I think maybe perhaps we don't relate to that as we were saying, but, that's one of the things that they mainly deal with, especially as a caregiver and going through that. And then also having to deal with that, coinciding. So that's one of our definitely priorities and definitely very vital.
Now, how does your organization ensure that they prioritize inclusivity, and what does inclusivity look like at PSS?
So inclusivity, so we have a very structured outreach plan that is very targeted to the underserved communities that we serve. So whether that's their in-service presentations or, stepping out into really targeting these communities and making sure that they are really getting that support that they need with the services that we offer. It's a bit more niche, but we really want to make sure that we are really tying in those communities, especially those that may not know that they have those resources available.
And I also want to expand. Are there anything for maybe people who speak different languages? Because I can imagine if you are Spanish speaking or you speak another language that's not English and the people caring for you only speak English, that could also be a little isolating. So is that something that the organization looks at, whether it's culturally, maybe speaking different languages, or is that something that you want to expand on?
Yeah, for example, in the Bronx, we definitely look about, there's this very Spanish speaking population, and we talk about, in the Bronx, for example, that's something that we take into consideration a lot. Just, so I, for example, am a bilingual outreach care consultant. That's something that we really much value in the way that we speak to the people that we serve. So, that is definitely something that we think about. Absolutely.
Now, can you discuss the importance of providing a safe space for caregivers to discuss their concerns?
Yeah, so we always want to provide a safe space in the sense where we want our care consultants to always provide that safe space, and they always do. They always play a significant role in supporting our caregivers. They always listen to their challenges, always provide them with the necessary resources. If they need to offer you time off in or outside of the home, they'll offer you that. They will invite you to support groups with other caregivers. So they really just are there to listen to your concerns and really address those problems that you need with the right solutions.
Now, the organization includes the community, because that's also a big part of it, by offering opportunities to get more involved. Can you tell me about the volunteer opportunities?
Yeah, so there's like a couple volunteer opportunities. I would say it's definitely more on our website, but we have front desk opportunities, clinical assistant, kitchen aid, outreach volunteer, anything workshop facilitator, support group facilitators, things like that. But that's definitely much more available on our website, but you can definitely take a look there, and we have some opportunities for sure available.
And I want to talk a little bit about the caregivers just for another moment, because I know that our society now, we're leaning more towards appreciating caregivers.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that shift and like how we're just kind of like highlighting them a little bit more and understanding that, being a caregiver, whether it's like through your job or maybe you're taking care of a parent or, someone who needs the help, that, that support is definitely needed.
Yeah, and I think, I want to go into, I think what I've been mentioning before about like isolation and loneliness. I think even with like the pandemic and also just like understanding how, important a caregiver's task is, and it's mostly unpaid as well. So it's not really, you're not really getting thanks that often. So just to really be an organization that is able to listen to these caregivers that are facing these problems is so important for us, and I'm so glad that that shift is taking place, or like even in progress too, just because it is only increasing, and the things that they have to address is as a caregiver are very hard. So we really want to make sure that that's recognized and that they're given the proper support, especially for being here. Yeah.
Now, speaking of support, PSS often hosts events.
Yeah.
Can you give us more details about your upcoming events? I know there's one in March that focuses on stress, anger, and negativity. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So that's that'll be on March 6th. It'll take place from 3 to 4:30 p.m. And it'll be hosted by Scott E. Weiner, who has a PhD in philosophy, and it'll be just kind of a 1-minute self techniques that you can learn to kind of let go of stress, practice, relax rapidly, just kind of find those techniques to really prevent stress.
Now, how can those who need resources or need the resources that PSS offers learn more about it? And are there any eligibility requirements?
So if you ever do want to check out more about us, you can always check out our website, pssusa.org, or you can check out our hotline. And the eligibility requirement is family caregivers, older adults, and kinship caregivers. And our purpose here is always to help them with what they want and when they need it. We have a bunch of programs available, and as I said before, we have our website and hotline, so please reach out.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more? I know that we talked about the event on March 6th, but can you tell us a little bit more about some other events that PSS hosts, or maybe some things that you've had in the past?
Other events, I don't think I have it on the top of my head right now, but I will say we do have an events page on our website that will have everything listed as to what's coming up. So you can always check out our website on our events page, and you can always find out what we have going on there. But that's my
Now, I want to also highlight really quickly the internship opportunities because I think that is so important for so many people. So can you talk about some of the internship opportunities that are available for people even in middle school to post-grad?
In middle school, that's another thing that I would prefer to check out on our website. That is another detail that I don't know too much about, but I do know that we do have internship opportunities. We do have volunteer opportunities as well. And us being, a nonprofit organization, there's definitely so much room to be in those areas. But that's as far as I can tell you right now for that as well. But definitely check out our website. Absolutely.
Of
and
course.
We can have some there.
Well, I also want to know what kind of got you into this field, because I think it's so amazing when we see people kind of go into these types of fields. So, what kind of inspired you to kind of be a part of this community?
I really, when I first started off, I really liked the company. I really liked what they do here. I think, I like nonprofit work. I never knew exactly what area, but I really like the company's values. I think that when you value, something so, I don't want to know if the word's niche, but, caregivers are somebody in, or a profession that just doesn't feel like it's thanked for enough. So I think that, working with a nonprofit that is so passionate about what they do and being able to give back and being able to work with a company that I like what they do as well, and it coincides, and it's just been able to, I learn a lot, and there are things that I've learned about caregiving and dementia that I've never learned about before, and it makes me care even more and want to make me do my job even harder.
Yeah, and I agree. It's definitely an area that is often overlooked.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes even when we talk about career, what we do in our careers, it's often not something that people talk about as a place that you can go into. But it's definitely a community that needs that, not only just needs that assistance, but they're a part of the community.
Yeah.
And so I love that the organization is, said that they want, seniors in New York to be a part of the community.
Exactly.
So I want to appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about this. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
To learn more about the amazing services that PSS Circle of Care offers, go to their website at www.pssusa.org or call them on their hotline at 212-874-6633. Again, that number is 212-874-6633. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open after this.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Kat from the Kitty Rose Lifestyle, also from The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray every week right here at BronxNet, Saturdays at 11 p.m. Wow, 30 years. 30 years of BronxNet public access television. I'm a girl from Brooklyn and came to the Bronx 25 years ago, started my journey on BronxNet on public access television in 2016, and BronxNet is where I got my start. BronxNet, I feel like, is a home away from home. They support all of my endeavors, and I wouldn't have been able to be on any of the other channels if it wasn't for the fundamentals that I learned right here at my start here at BronxNet. So I am so appreciative. My son says I should stop telling people I'm from Brooklyn because I've been here now, Bronx Strong, for 22 years. So I'm so grateful, and I wish you much success in 30 years, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30 more, because public access is necessary so that people like myself can have a voice. Yes, BronxNet, it's your girl Kat from Kitty Rose. Check me out every Saturday at 11 p.m. right here, Channel 68, The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. Mwah.
Welcome back. For our next segment, we'll take a look at a skincare studio with a mission to bring more natural products and treatments to the skincare industry. Avoiding a one-size-fits-all approach, Botánica offers fully customized treatments and solutions using holistic remedies and plant-based ingredients. Please take a look at this interview with the founder of Botánica Skincare Studio, Natasha Jimenez, as we discuss the brand and her experience running a skincare business in New York City. Now, can you talk about your personal experience and basically what inspired you to explore skincare professionally?
Yeah, so I really struggled with breakouts throughout my teenage years, and beauty and skincare was always something that I was into. And I realized in high school, especially after trying so many products, there's so many products out there, it can be very overwhelming. I really was trying to dive deep into the ingredients and just really learn about what works for the skin. A lot of products out there are just, very harsh, very exfoliating, and do more damage than good. So that's when I really realized that I wanted to dive deeper and pursue a career in aesthetics, where I went to school at New York School of Aesthetics in Tarrytown, and that's where I really found my true passion for skincare and facials. So I love what I do, and I love just making people feel confident in their own skin, and that's really why I wanted to just finally start my own business. After being in the industry for almost 10 years, I knew that it was time to finally venture out on my own.
Now, can you talk about your journey with Botánica Skincare Studio in New York City? How did that all begin for you?
Yes, so I launched my business in June 2023. I really realized after having my daughter back in 2022 that I was ready to finally do this and really make a meaningful impact. I wanted to really emphasize the importance of using clean, non-toxic skincare. Again, working for so long with other companies and big beauty spas and industries, I realized that a lot of these bigger brands are not using the right kind of ingredients or even treatments, just doing really harsh treatments that can really make the skin worse. And I really wanted to keep it simple, just focusing on treatments that are more holistic without compromising the skin's health.
Now, what were the challenges of opening a skincare business in New York City?
Yes, so definitely two challenges. First one was finding the right location, and of course the competition. Being in New York City, there's so many spas and industries out there, lots of competition, which can also be very overwhelming for the client. And for me, finding the right location was key, so I'm really happy with the spot that I have in Midtown. And it's located right in the heart of New York City, right by Rockefeller Center, in the Mindful Health Suite. And for me, it was really important to work with other like-minded practitioners, so I do share a space with them, and I think it's so important for growth, where I can really build my business and brand and learn from others too. And then of course the competition, so that was definitely a big thing, but with my reputation, just being in the industry for so long, I knew that I was able to bring high customer service to my clients and also just having the right products for them. I think just doing so much research on brands, like Blissoma is one of them that I partnered with. I love their raw plant ingredients, and the fact that they're non-toxic was really a key reason why I chose them. So I think those two for sure, again, just the location and competition were two big factors that I really, wanted to make sure I landed.
Now, what are some of the services that you provide, and what areas of skincare do they target? I see that we have some of the products with us here, so you can also talk about that as well. You know, what are some of the main things that you focus on when it comes to skincare?
Yeah, so with my studio at Botánica Skincare Studio, I really wanted to keep it simple. So I have 4 different services to choose from with optional add-on enhancements to really target a wide range of concerns. So with these add-ons, people can really customize their facial. I've learned, again, like working in the industry for so long, that having too many different services can be too overwhelming for clients. So I really like to keep it simple. And my signature facial, for instance, is a great starting monthly maintenance facial for a new client where I can really fully customize it for them. And I do offer a detox and clear treatment as well, which is a little bit longer for someone who maybe has more congestion or just wants more relaxing time. So Blissoma, a lot of their products I use in treatment and recommend to my clients. And I love giving samples as well, which is, I think, really sets me apart from other businesses as well. Is just really, I really want to make sure that they're using the right products at home too, to really make sure they're getting the right results.
And do you have any, I know as a skincare person it's probably like hard to answer, but do you have any favorite skincare product that you've helped develop?
Yeah, so with Blissoma, one of my favorites is the Smooth A Plus Correcting Serum. Now this is very different than most vitamin A serums because most of them are very dry and irritating, where this one contains rosehip oil to really help hydrate the skin. There's also 4% niacinamide, which is great for helping with uneven skin tone, scarring, and just really helping to keep the skin clear. So I do love this for anyone just really that focuses more on congestion or oiliness. And it's something that I use in the treatment room all the time too. Another personal favorite is the Eye and Hydration Tonic. Lots of people don't understand the importance of like toners, and really their toners are not astringents. They're really meant to really help hydrate the skin. And I think hydration is key when it comes to facials and maintaining your skin at home. Again, it's not so much about exfoliating or stripping away dead skin. It's really about hydration. And this one's beautiful because there's no irritating ingredients in this. It's really just going to help balance and hydrate the skin to allow for other products to penetrate better and absorb easy.
Now, another thing that I found really interesting was that you also have LED light therapy. Now, that sounds really cool. What is it, and how is it useful in skincare?
So yes, LED light therapy, which actually stands for light emitting diode, is technology that's been around for many years. A little fun fact, actually, that my husband loves is that it's been around since the 1990s, and NASA actually invented it to really help astronaut wounds, to help speed up the healing process. So what LED light therapy does, it uses different wavelengths of red, blue, or infrared light that penetrate the skin at different levels to really help heal the skin a lot in a different way. So it's amazing. For instance, red light is great for collagen production. It helps with redness and inflammation. And blue light works at the sebaceous glands to really help with oiliness and fighting acne-causing bacteria. So I do love to combine LED light therapy with my facials as an optional add-on at Botánica. Clients do like 15 or 30 minutes and do have like a little power nap after.
Now, a goal of Botánica Skincare is to educate your clients, which I think is very important, especially when it comes to skincare. Just because I know a lot of people, especially now we're having a skincare craze, like even young people are, or like children are interested in skincare. But people need to know exactly what they're doing because they could have some, I guess, some negative effects if they're not using products properly. So can you just talk a little bit about the importance of educating your clients on how to actually use this? I
100% agree, and that really goes aligned with my mission at Botánica Skincare Studio. I thought it was very important to make sure my clients are educated on not just like the treatments, but also their products that they're currently using and their home care routine. I think lots of people out there are not, they don't have the knowledge of the ingredients and really what the harm that it can do if you're not using the right products. So for me, that was like really key, which is why I'm very big with getting to know my client before they even walk into the studio. I send them an intake form just to really know their history, any allergies or what kind of products they're currently using. And I really like to dissect the ingredients of the products they're currently using and help them understand why it's good or maybe not good for their skin. And I love just recommending alternatives for them. So again, Blissoma is a great one to really help with anyone with acne, rosacea. And I think from the moment they walk into the studio, I already know what kind of treatment plan I'm going to have for them and what products to recommend based on their intake form and based on the skin analysis I do for them as well.
Now, what advice would you give to somebody, as I mentioned, everybody's really into skincare, but what advice would you give to somebody who's maybe just starting out, or maybe they don't have any, maybe don't have like acne, or they don't know where to begin, but they know they want to get better at skincare? What would you advise?
So I think really just don't be afraid to ask. And I think like for this year, just really take the time to, ask questions. Like when you come in for your facial, really just don't be afraid to really get to know your skin and what your goals are. I think, again, with so much out there right now, it can be very intimidating for people to go in for a facial or like buy new products because there's so much out there. And I think it's just a matter of, asking the questions and really getting knowledgeable about what you're using at home and how you can really just keep a simple routine.
Now, I understand that you also have tips that look at more than just surface level skincare, but it also looks at the way we treat our overall health. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, so I think for sure like everything is just connected, not only about using non-toxic skincare, but also like mental health, taking care of yourself from within, your diet, your lifestyle, all that is connected. And that's something I really highlight to my clients and talk about with them, which I think is also what really just sets me apart, is that I love asking my clients, like, what does your day-to-day look like? How is your diet? Do you have any restrictions on your diet? How are you feeling? Like stress level management on a scale of 1 to 5. I really like to ask that question because, if they tell me they're at a 5, I ask them, like, what do you do to really help yourself feel good? And if it's coming in for a facial to help relax or working out or something like that, everything is connected. So I think it's really about feeling good from the inside out, and using, of course, non-toxic skincare is going to make a big difference because it does affect our overall health too.
And how does one actually adopt or find the right skincare regimen? I know that in these days we often maybe go to YouTube or TikTok and follow what someone else is doing, but what should we do for our own personal skincare journeys?
So I think, again, it's just to really stay on top and ask questions. Like, don't be afraid to ask your esthetician for questions. On my Instagram too, I'm always trying to give skincare tips as well at Botánica Skincare Studio. And I think it's just really learning about key ingredients and which key ingredients will work for your concerns. So I always tell my clients, look at the products that you have at home. The first 5 ingredients are really what's in your product and making the biggest difference in your skin. If you see things like fragrance or, sulfates, silicones, those kind of ingredients are not really doing good for your skin. So I think it's just, again, really about not being afraid to ask questions and building a routine that's easy for you to do at home, but also staying consistent. The consistency is key. And
then can you just elaborate really quickly the importance of non-toxic and just plant-based ingredients?
Yeah, so I think for me, which is why I chose to use just non-toxic plant-based ingredients at my studio, was because I really see the difference when you use real ingredients that penetrate the skin at a deeper level, combined holistic with chemistry, makes a huge difference. So, just if you start using products that are containing ingredients like those fragrances, mineral oil, petroleum, there's so much out there that people don't know about, and it actually can do more harm than good, and not just for our bodies, but even for the environment too. So also, for instance, with the light shifting solution SPF, it's a mineral sunscreen. There's no chemical sunscreen, and a lot of people don't know, but chemical sunscreens do cause a lot of them hormone disruption and even can damage our oceans. So it's better definitely to stick with something like fragrance free. This one is beautiful because it's great for even acne clients, and there's no silicones in it either. So I think it's just really important it's just like your food, you want to make sure that you choose the right ingredients for food, just like you would your skincare.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I really love that last bit about how it's also good for the environment. I think that's just kind of amazing. So, I appreciate you coming here and talking to us about this. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you would like to learn more about Botánica Skincare Studio services or to book your appointment, please go to their website at www.botanicaskincarestudio.com. It was such a pleasure to have Natasha Jimenez on the show to teach us more about skincare routines. Stay tuned. We have more open for you right after this.
The ability to have my show during this time is helpful because I can stay connected with my friends, still interview people, and share my content.
welcome back. Producer, creator, and actor Katrina Walker shares her inspiring success story in her book, Unbreakable, The Katrina Walker Story. The book takes readers on a journey through moments in Walker's life, from being homeless to becoming a self-made millionaire. In addition to writing the book, Walker has also showcased her storytelling talents on the stage with a play called Miss D's Kitchen. Walker now joins me to discuss the power of storytelling and how it can be used to empower audiences. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I want to know a little bit more about you in the sense of basically, what led you on the path of storytelling and creative expression?
Storytelling, okay. All my life, and I go back in my book, Unbreakable, as far as 4 years old, I've always been that person that everybody liked to be around, and just people, saying, hey, I've had folks say, hey, be quiet, Trina talking, so they wanted to hear what I had to say, and it just interests people.
Now, what inspired the creation of your book? And can you tell us a little bit more about, that moment that you knew this was a story that you wanted to tell?
What inspired me about my book is that being a young black woman, or a little girl at the time, growing up in Memphis in the 60s and the 70s, and not having just an easy life. Now, as a little girl, I wanted to show other black girls, and just girls, period, my life story. I wanted to put it out there, my life story, in hopes that it helped, other young girls.
Now, in the book, you talk about some of the hardships in your life. How has the entire process of creating this book and detailing the moments in your life serve as a way to heal, but also highlight some of your triumphs?
Because even starting off in my book, I talk about surviving a home invasion where my head was big as a pumpkin and about 10 guys was in my home trying to kill me. But I survived it. And afterwards, going to the victim of home invasions and talking to the people, and they saying, this never happens. People don't get out of this. What did you say to them? So just my life, always going down and coming back up. As my mother, she's been gone for about 22 years. But as she would describe me, Trina, I've never seen nobody go down and come up, go down, and she push her hands down and come up the way that you do. And that's what inspired me, is to teach other people, no matter how far down you get, you get back up. You can get back up.
Now, what I love that you mentioned was that you wanted this to kind of be something for young women and young girls, especially young black women and young girls. Can you just talk a little bit more about the importance of kind of having that representation?
It is very, very important, because the way that I look at it, a lot of women are not still around and helping. Like when I was coming up, we had a village, to raise the children. And so when I did, I always had a hard time. I have 4 children. Well, I just lost my son.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
about a month ago. But I was a teenage bride, a teenage mama. His name was Bobby. Lord, rest in peace, Bobby. But at any rate, I raised my children, and I had a hard life. I went through the abuse of their dad. I went through not having money, getting food stamps, standing in a line in a field trying to get milk. Black and white milk mean generic milk for my preemie baby. So I went through all of this, and I still came back up. So one thing I wanted to do for young women was start a daycare center. And I started the first 24-hour child care center for young mamas, to go from, I don't want them to just be on welfare always, because they're bigger than that. From welfare to work, know that their children were in a good place. And from work to they could go back to school, they could become entrepreneurs. And, I was that woman that I wanted to give back to these young women. And I did that for 30 years.
That's amazing. And it's so inspiring just to hear you speak and talk about your stories. So I know that there's so much that readers can take away from the book. But I also want to highlight your talents on this stage with that, which I think is just so amazing, and it's just so cool that, you know, that like people like you have so many different outlets and just areas where you can shine. Can you talk about Miss D's Kitchen and how that journey began?
Miss D's Kitchen, okay. Like I said, growing up in the South, Katrina Walker, I was that little black Shirley Temple. I can go back as far as 4 years old and really remember those days of getting up, my grandmama trying to stretch some eggs, because we had black relatives would come from up north or New York or wherever they may be down south to visit. So my grandmama, she'd be trying to stretch those eggs to feed everybody. But Trina, you know, I said, we called her Mud Deer back then. But we said, Trina, little Trina, she look at grandmama trying to stretch the eggs with some milk or whatever to make it go around to everybody. And I was gone. At 4 years old, I had to get out of there, you know, because I already knew I was going to get me some bacon and eggs. So the whole neighborhood loved me and knew me. And that was one of the things that I was gifted with, you know, just being that little girl that everybody just welcomed in their home. So what inspired me about Miss D's Kitchen, growing up, my mama, Miss D, which I play the character, Miss D, she was that woman that everybody was always welcomed in our home. Our door was never locked. And you might hear some Al Green all the way to the front porch, you know. And these characters that I created, these are real people. So I got Pretty Tony. He's a pimp on foot, meaning that he don't own no Cadillac. So the house was, the preacher would come by to have a drink of vodka, you know. So it was just, you know, real people in a real life. And Miss D, she shot from the hip. You know, you may not want to hear what she got to say, but she was the doctor. If you had a busted head, she stitched it up, you know, but she was everything to everybody, and everybody loved her, which is me. Now I'm that middle-aged black woman. Mama's gone, you know, but I put it in a stage play, and people are loving it. It's selling out.
That's amazing. And you said that they're actually stemming from real people. You know,
Real people.
what was it like finding, you know, the actors to play, you know, these people that you know in real life? And, you know, what was the process of saying, like, okay, this person embodies and is, you know, an envisionment of, you know, what I thought this character would be?
Right, okay. And that was one of those things that I had to really kind of dig through like a needle in a haystack, but actually talking to these people and showing them exactly how this character is to be, which Tony Grant, which have played in quite a few sitcoms and things on BET and places like that. But I knew that he could fit Pretty Tony, and he does. He's that pimp on foot, and he plays that character out so well. So it was one of those things that I had to really dig through and really teach them and talk to them about how this character, everything from head to toe, their demeanor, how they walk, how they dance, how they act, and that's how I found the characters that I have.
Now, the play is described as hilariously funny. Why did you want to use comedy as a way to connect with the audience?
Because I grew up laughing, you know, and that was before we had comedy on TV. You know, we just we didn't even have grass, just dirt, just telling jokes. And you didn't even know you was telling jokes, and it was all for free, but everybody laughed. I grew up with laughter in my home, you know, or around me. Laughter. You know, it wasn't even about money. You know, nobody had no money. We didn't even know we was not P-O-O-R. We didn't even know we was po. But we was po, but we was happy, you know, and we were laughing. So I grew up with laughter.
That's amazing, and I love that. Like, people say laughter is the best medicine, and so I love that you know you're bringing that to your work. You know, what impact do you hope the play will have on the audience besides just being funny and making people laugh? What else do you hope people get from the play?
The realness. Miss D, she keeps it real. She keeps it 100. You know, she's gone, and all this about you can't say this and you can't say that. You know, we didn't carry our feelings on our shoulder. Miss D, she kept it real, and I think that people can appreciate the real. You know, everybody don't want to be a yes person, you know. I think people really love laughter. They love funny. They love fun. And they want to be happy. And especially with everything everybody's been through with, you know, the COVID and all this stuff. It's time to laugh again.
Right. Now, how can people support your work?
Well, first of all, they can go to Miss MS Katrina Walker, my social media, and share me. Tell everybody about me. I want everybody to know, because when it's all over, everybody's gonna know, and we're gonna have a ball.
That's amazing. Now, I want to know, what do you have next, or what do you hope to achieve next? You've accomplished so much, and as I mentioned, it's already so inspiring. So what do you have next, or what is something that you want to do in the future?
I want to start a foundation to help with all these drugs out here, you know, and lives being taken. You know, I want to start a foundation for men and women, you know, people that can't even afford to put, you know, it's called blind eye. You know, it's so many times we see things, but we don't. We go about our life, but I want to, like I say again, start this foundation to help people. My life is to help people. I just want it where when I lay down at the end of the day and when my day is done, you know, I just want to help people. I know I can't save the whole wide world, but I'm sure going to try.
And what advice would you give to somebody who is looking at this right now and is inspired by your story and doesn't know, you know, what's the next step they should take to kind of come out of maybe whatever they feel is holding them back?
I met a young woman yesterday. I was in TJ Maxx, one of my favorite stores. I'm going to give them a shout out. But anyhow, she was ringing my stuff up. She says, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing fine." And I said, "How are you doing?" She said, "Well," a young girl. "Yeah, well, okay." You know, I said, "Well, sweetheart, what is wrong?" You know, just, "Well, my day, things are not going so good," and da-da-da-da-da. And I just told her, you know, a little bit about what I was going through. She said, "But you don't look like it. You're so strong." I said, "I just lost my oldest son, you know." I said, "Baby, you got so much, you know, to live for. You're young." And that's what I want to do, is tell people, no matter how bad things may be, or you may think things are, you know, I don't care what road you go up. And you might go up another road. You're going to go through things. I call it stuff. But you're going to go through it. You're still going to land on the other side. So that's what, you know, what I tell young people, or tell people, period. You know, don't let, you know, your mind, your thoughts, you know, take you out of here. You know what I'm saying? Thinking always the wrong, because no matter, like I say, whatever road you go up, you're going to always go through something, but you're going to go through it. Always think positive and know that you are every one of your thoughts.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. And I'm so sorry to hear, you know, about what happened to your son. But again, I appreciate you for coming here and, you know, sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
To learn more about Unbreakable, the Katrina Walker story, and Miss D's Kitchen, please go to her website at www.mskatrinawalker.com. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Happy anniversary to BronxNet, 30 years. Wow, brings back so many memories. This exact studio that I'm in right now, I broadcast out of here. This must have been around 2003. I mean, time flies by so quickly. I started out here, it was either Mr. Gary Axelbank and Mr. Batch with Lady Morsar. We used to do a show here called In the Neighborhood. And I brought so many different guests on this show. To be able to bring your voice to the community is very powerful. To bring hip hop and spirituality, I brought my pastor in this same studio, Pastor Gino Jennings, and I'm sure you guys know who Pastor Gino Jennings is. That's rough. And some disciplined teaching. BronxNet is something that we need to uplift our communities, because this is a platform that we can come, and if you have a vision that's in your mind going into your heart, you can use it to do uplifting things for your community.
Welcome back. The New York Community Trust recently received a total of $7.7 million in grants that will be distributed among 39 nonprofit organizations. These organizations work toward the goal of building and sustaining healthy, rewarding lives in New York. The grants aim to support a wide range of community needs, from assisting cancer patients to empowering women of color to establish their own businesses. Deputy Vice President for Grants at New York Community Trust, Irfan Hasan, joins me to discuss. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Now, can you start off by telling us a little bit more about the New York Community Trust and what the organization does?
Sure. So the New York Community Trust is what we call a community foundation. We have been around for 100 years. We're turning 100 this year.
Wow, congratulations.
Pretty good for 100. We are a place where generous New Yorkers come together to make New York better while they're living and also through their legacies. We're about 3.2 billion in size in assets, and last year in 2023 we gave out about $200 million in grants.
Now, how does the organization determine which other, nonprofits or organizations in the region that they want to fund? Because I can imagine that is a big task. So, what is that process like?
Sure. So, I think for all your listeners, what is really important to know is we have an open application process. That is both the good news and the challenging news. The good news is any nonprofit can apply, and we serve New York City, Westchester, and Long Island. Nonprofits can apply. We focus on a whole range of projects, and we try to make the best decisions possible to ultimately make sure that New York continues to be a great place.
Now, as I mentioned, the Trust was recently awarded $7.7 million to 39 nonprofit organizations around New York. Could you elaborate on the factors that led to this amazing grant? And also, by the way, congratulations, because that is also an amazing thing. Whenever there's just more resources to support more communities, that's always an amazing thing. So congratulations. But what factors led to the grant?
Sure. So we have what they call an endowment through generous New Yorkers who have left us money. And that $7.7 million that we were able to give away to other nonprofits came from what we have been given over the years. So it wasn't just one $7.7 million that came to us and then we gave out. It's money that we have and we continue to give out. The trust makes grants 5 times a year. Our board reviews recommendations that the staff put forward, and the February grants were part of that group. We're going to be giving another round in April, another round in June, October, and in December.
Now, could you highlight a few organizations that you may think of or causes that will benefit from this grant?
Sure. So the two that kind of come to mind that I think are just really, really nifty. One is Freedom Agenda. It's an organization that is really working to end the challenges of Rikers Island. We live in New York City. New York City is huge, and Rikers Island, I think, unfortunately, is a place that really needs to be reformed, perhaps even shut down. And Freedom Agenda is really helping to move that work forward. There's another grant that we made to people-oriented cities, which is really looking at how do you make sure that the built environment stays good and healthy for all of us. There are just lots of examples. We've been making grants around cancer treatment and support for people. There was a large tranche of grants in the February grants, a little over 1 million, that are helping people with cancer get the services that they need, whole range of services. So just a few examples. I could go on for.
Well, that's amazing, and it is great to know that this stuff is already being put in work.
Yeah.
Now, can you provide some insight into the trust criteria and considerations when allocating grants to organizations?
That is both the most fun part of the job of being at a foundation and also the hardest. We have guidelines that our board sets for us, that our board approves for us, and we follow those. And broadly speaking, we look at efforts that look to either make policy change, advance a system or a sector to make things better writ large, and that are addressing a pressing need. Our guidelines are pretty broad, and the fact that, again, we have an open application, it allows us to hear from the community as to what is needed. And then we go through and figure out, well, where is the best sort of bang for the buck, so to speak.
Now, how does the trust prioritize diversity in its decision-making processes related to grant selection and allocation?
Great question. New York City is the most diverse city in the world. And when we make grants to reflect what New York City is about. So certainly we look at organizations that are led by people of color. We look at organizations that may be working in immigrant communities. We look at organizations that work people who may have disabilities. One of the grants in February was a continuing effort around Access-a-Ride and making sure that people with disabilities can get around our city easily. So we really, really focus in on what makes up New York City, which is really, really diverse, and try to match that in our grant making.
And then can you just talk about, why it's so important to highlight and support marginalized communities with funding?
We live in a world where there is inequality, and that is just, I think, a fact. If we can do wealth transference, get people who need resources, the resources from people who left money to make things better, we've just got to do it, and that's what we ultimately are about.
Now, how does the trust ensure that it's connecting with the affected communities and addressing their specific needs?
So the trust has if I can kind of toot our own horn for a little while, an amazing staff. And our staff are New Yorkers, whether they are individuals who were born here, raised here, or people who chose to make New York their home. And we live in all 5 boroughs, we live in 8 downstate counties, so we're out and about all the time and getting to know our communities. We also really, really take seriously the fact that they're nonprofits who are doing the hard work, and they inform us a lot of what needs to be done.
Now, what measures does the trust employ to evaluate the effectiveness of grants allocated to local organizations?
We take the lead from the organization, actually. When organizations submit a proposal to us for a project, we ask them, well, what is it that you seek to achieve? And that's sort of what we used to measure. Now, because we look at efforts that relate to changing systems, to advancing policy, the change might not happen very quickly. So we try to figure out some metrics that are viable, and that's what we look at. And that's what we wait to hear from the organizations as to how they're doing with that.
And can you just, you mentioned, kind of the relationship and, just the close contact you have with a lot of these organizations, which I think is so important, because I think sometimes we think that people just, they'll just give an organization money and then they disappear. They don't really hear until it's maybe a 6-month update.
Yeah.
But, you're working with the organizations. Can you talk about the importance
Sure.
of that?
Sure. So I think we try to find a balance of being involved but not being in their business, because they're the ones that are doing the work, and the last thing they need is somebody like me calling every week and saying, so how is it going? Tell me what's happening. So we set up times where we might check in, we wait for reports, but I think the real important part is that we trust that the money that we are giving to organizations, they will do the very best possible. And then we wait to hear where the results are.
Now, a major goal outlined for the grant is to improve the quality of lives for New Yorkers. What does that mean, and what does that look like for the New York Community Trust?
I'll give 2 examples from 2 of the grants that we made. There was a grant that we made to Cancer Care. Cancer Care is an organization that works with people who have cancer. And making life better sometimes can mean getting the financial assistance to make that co-payment so you can get your next dose of chemotherapy. And Cancer Care helps with that. It's a small thing, $50, but it's critical if you're getting chemo. All the way to something far more systemic, a grant to New York Lawyers for Public Interest around making sure that the transportation system for people with disabilities continues to become even more accessible. That's a much different kind of lift, but that will make quality of life so much better for people who may have disabilities.
No, and I love that you're explaining this because it shows the range of, how you're affecting so many different New Yorkers, and it's all so very important. So thank you for sharing that. Now, what long-term impact does the Trust hope to achieve with its funding, and what specific changes or improvements are anticipated with recent funding?
So ultimately, I think our goal is to make New York a good place for everybody. And because New York is so vibrant, so changing, new people are coming in, new ideas are happening here, we're constantly trying to stay up to date with, well, what is the next thing that needs to happen to continue to make New York a good place for all, whether you're living in the top of a penthouse or whether you just got off a bus from the southern border. So it really is sort of making sure that New York remains a vibrant, welcoming, and good place to live.
Now, I want to talk about, just because I think that's kind of the theme, is supporting local organization and nonprofits. What are some ways, of course your organization is doing it, but what are some ways that everyday New Yorkers can support their local and nonprofit organizations?
There are a few ways I think that folks can do it. Volunteer. Find a place locally where you can spend a few hours, whether it is then getting to know your neighbors, getting to know an issue, something like that. You can certainly give money, and every cent counts. The New York Community Trust has been built up by regular New Yorkers who've left money. So it's not all millionaires. It can be school teachers, taxi drivers, you name it. And then the last thing I would say is it's a hard thing to do, but say kind of be kind and look around what's happening, because New York has so much happening. I mean, any block in any borough just is teeming with life and activity, and absorb that, learn from it, and give back to it.
And I agree 100% that there's so many ways that we could support what's happening in our community, because it really is a community. So, thank you so much for joining us and kind of highlighting that and talking a little bit more about the amazing work your organization does.
My pleasure. Thank you.
To learn more about the New York Community Trust, please go to their website, www.nycommunitytrust.org. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on the Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Hemick on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.